The following video is intended to introduce viewers to special education mediation. It is meant to be a general introduction and is not intended to interpret federal or state law. It is hoped that the viewer will get an improved understanding of the mediation process and the role of the mediator. Benefits and limitations of the mediation process are reviewed. Sources of additional information are provided at the end of the video.
What is mediation?
Mediation is finding a solution through cooperation.
Mediation is finding a solution through participation.
Mediation is a process.
It's finding a solution through communication.
By taking action.
Finding a solution, that's mediation.
It sounds like a great way to solve problems, and it is. Mediation is really just a process, a powerful, effective process to create an agreement that will resolve differences and create a better relationship between people having a dispute. A neutral person called the mediator manages this process, and it's his or her job to help parents, educators, and service providers communicate more effectively with each other and then develop a written document that contains the details of their agreement.
For us as parents, mediation had a lot of benefits. It was easy to arrange, and in our case it took less than a day to complete and was free.
We felt the mediator did a good job of being fair and not taking sides. Each of us got the chance to say what was on our mind.
We were able to say what was on our minds. They were able to say what they were thinking. We talked about new alternatives and options, and together we came up with a solution.
We avoided having to go to a due process hearing. And best of all, we finally have a solution that we can all agree on. And that's what works best for our son.
Following my initial training, I have mediated for almost 5 years. I believe in mediation because 85% of the time it results in a written agreement. It is my job to create a situation where people feel safe and then can interact and understand each other's point of view. Key to that is that I have to be unbiased and impartial. I can't take sides. I help them to look at points of agreement and disagreement and help identify different options. And when we're ready, I assist in writing down the terms of the new agreement.
It's like I said before, we have an agreement that we all can work with, and that's what's best for our child.
Benefits of mediation. Parents and educators jointly develop the final agreement rather than an outside individual. Parents and educators work together, and they are in control of the outcome. Mutual agreements result in greater satisfaction for everyone involved. Mediation assists everyone to better understand differing points of view. Mediation may be less costly, and disagreements are resolved more quickly than through traditional adversarial procedures. Written agreements resulting from mutual resolution are more likely to be kept. These are some potential concerns about mediation that you should be aware of. Mediation can sometimes be an emotional, tiring, and frustrating process. Parents and family members may feel at a disadvantage if they don't adequately prepare. Some complex situations might need multiple mediation sessions in order to create a clear and detailed agreement.
There is no guarantee that mediation will lead to a written agreement. After we've all been introduced, I will talk about some basic ground rules. Only one person is going to speak at a time, and everything that is said here will be kept confidential. I'm going to ask that each person be respectful when you talk to each other.
Then the participants were asked to each give their opening remarks.
We're here because we can't agree with the school about Dan's IEP and his services. Dan has a learning disability in reading and writing, as well as attention deficit disorder.
When the parents were done, the school district representatives gave their opening remarks.
We have some differences in opinion about Dan's needs.
and the services he should receive. While we did agree to come here, I don't have much hope in an agreement, but we're willing to talk about it.
After the family and school shared their initial concerns, some time was spent identifying the topics for discussion.
We want the school to pay for Dan's tutoring.
And we need better communication with his teachers.
There are limitations with what we can do for each and every student on an individual basis.
And we can't pay for private tutoring every time a family hires someone.
It's important that all of us are open to new alternatives. We have to also be realistic about how we can implement new solutions and the kind of agreement that we can reach. Keeping that in mind, let's come up with some options and see what people think about them.
The only problem is the school isn't providing the individual attention that Dan needs.
What if we tried meeting with his teachers before the school year begins to ensure they're familiar with Dan?
That might work, especially if we have regular evaluations to review with the teachers.
What about the whole issue of paying for the testing and tutoring we found for him?
That's going to be difficult. We can't pay for services that we didn't contract for.
What would you think about paying for additional help beyond what we can provide?
Perhaps we should take a minute and discuss this privately.
A caucus is a separate meeting called by the mediator. It is a chance to privately discuss or develop a response, to figure out how to proceed, or even to let out emotions in private. The mediator will meet separately with both the family and the school. When everyone returned to the room, the family and school continued working together.
I think we're at a point now where we can start to identify options that may be acceptable to everyone. Carla and James, you said that if Dan's teachers met with you before each school year and carefully read and reviewed his evaluations and IEP, you wouldn't expect the school to repay you for the testing and tutoring you've done. Would that be an acceptable point in our agreement? Jane and Sarah, you said the school would provide a reading specialist to meet with Dan every day.
Once the parties come up with acceptable solutions and address potential barriers to implementation, the mediation reaches its final stage, the creation of a written agreement.
Then let's put this in writing. We'll decide who's responsible for carrying out each item, and we'll assign a timeline to the process. When you're sure it's complete, we'll all sign the agreement, and each of you will leave with a copy.
Successfully writing up the agreement brought the formal mediation process to a close. Now that we have some idea of what mediation is and how it works, let's answer some of the common questions that people often have.
Does the mediator make decisions? No, the mediator doesn't make the decisions. Their job is to structure the process and help the people at the mediation communicate with each other. Who pays for mediation? The state bears the cost of paying for the mediation process required under IDEA when the mediation follows a request for a due process hearing. Some states and school districts may provide mediation at no cost prior to a request for a due process hearing. How will I know the school will follow through with the agreement terms? All parties sign a form outlining the terms of the agreement to show their commitment to the agreement. People tend to follow the terms of mediation agreements because they were a part of developing them. What if mediation doesn't work? If an agreement can't be reached, parents retain their full right to a due process hearing. And almost without exception, participants report that even if an agreement isn't reached, the experience has been a good use of their time. Who will attend the mediation? For the process to be manageable, participants should be limited to those individuals who are necessary to develop and carry out an agreement. The parties often agree beforehand on who will attend the session and may request a limit on the number of people who will be there. Are mediations confidential? Yes. Only the parties involved in the meeting will know what was said, and discussions may not be shared outside the group. The things said during mediation cannot be used in any future due process hearing or court proceeding. Mediation can be used to help solve all kinds of different disputes. Things like problems with an IEP or an IFSP. It can be used to identify special needs and services. It may be helpful when a student has been expelled or suspended. It can be used with transportation and transition issues or with concerns related to program content and location. Mediation can really help with a whole range of matters. If you think it might be right for your situation, you should definitely ask. Again, some benefits of mediation include:
parents and educators jointly develop the final agreement rather than an outside individual. Parents and educators work together, and they are in control of the outcome. Mutual agreements result in greater satisfaction for everyone involved. Mediation assists everyone to better understand differing points of view. Mediation may be less costly, and disagreements are resolved more quickly than through traditional adversarial procedures. Written agreements resulting from mutual resolution are more likely to be kept.
How do we request mediation? Each state will have its own guidelines for requesting mediation. For more information, contact your Parents Center or State Department of Education. We hope that this videotape has given you an understanding of what mediation is and why it can be a fair and effective way of resolving conflicts. Cooperation, participation, communication, and commitment are all part of finding a solution through mediation.
Parents and educators work together, and they are in control of the final decision.
Disagreements may be resolved more quickly than if you use a due process hearing.
Everyone has a better understanding of the different points of view.
Written agreements that form these kinds of cooperative processes result in higher rates of compliance, and everyone comes away more satisfied.
For more information about special education mediation in your state, contact your Parent Training and Information Center, Community Parent Resource Center, state or local education agency, or CADRE, the National Center on Dispute Resolution in Special Education. For more information about best practices and a current list of Parent Training and Information Centers and Community Parent Resource Centers in the nation, contact the Technical Assistance Alliance for Parent Centers, the Alliance, at 1-888-248-0822, or visit their website, www.taalliance.org. The Consortium for Appropriate Dispute Resolution in Special Education, CADRE, serves as the National Technical Assistance Center on Dispute Resolution. You can call 541-686-5060 or visit their website at www.directionservice.org/cadre. The National Information Center for Children and Youth with Disabilities, NICHI, responds to parent requests for information. Call NICHI toll-free at 1-800-695-0285 or visit their website www.nichcy.org.